Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, or how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business through to the end consumer, or how to go about finding an investor if you're ready for that aspect. Bottom line is we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important aspects of this journey to establishing and growing your brand. Tracy and I have been doing this a long time. We've made a lot of mistakes, and we've done a few good things, so we're here to help you. Please follow our podcast on iTunes or Spotify, leave us a review, and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. Tracy?
Bruce and I have been involved in consumer packaged goods commercial operations roles for over 30 years. We define commercial operation functions relating to sales, marketing, trade marketing, broker and distributor management, agency selection and management, new product development, brand acquisition and divestitures, and customer management. We also invite on our episodes friends and former colleagues from all aspects of the Road to Retail process to come on the show and offer their opinions and experience. Again, we encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes or Spotify channel at Road, 2 Retail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail. Hey, Bruce, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Tracy. Always good to get on the show with interesting guests. Speaking of which, who do we have here today?
Absolutely. So today we have Greg Nielsen. He's the CEO of a brand called Octonuts. I've had the pleasure of knowing Greg and working with him for the last couple of years, and we're excited to have Greg on the show today. So, Greg, let's kick things off. And why don't you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll hop into our discussion points today.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Bruce. Been looking very forward to being part of the podcast. You guys have really built up an incredible library of resources that I think is incredibly valuable for your audience, whether that's folks who are starting out a new brand, doing startups, or who are in the industry. There's just a wealth of knowledge with the guests you guys have had, and been looking very forward to it and appreciate the conversational format.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, a bit about me. I'm my background is in marketing. I've been an in-house marketer for over 20 years for various different consumer brands in various different industries. And what I've learned from that is when you're in the smaller companies, you're really doing the grit and the work that it takes to build out the brand. You work cross departmentally. You know the folks in accounting, all of them, the folks in operations, all of them, the folks in sales, all of them. And you don't quite have that weird divide that bigger companies just naturally get just by their sheer size. I will say I've had the joy of building brands, building businesses, and really being in the trenches together for several different emerging brands that become small size and mid-sized companies and all that. And my background has kind of started over many times where I go to various different startup brands all together. More specifically, how I think my background has prepped me for this moment altogether is I was initially actually a concert promoter, first in high school, then in college, and doing every degree of concerts from everything from do-it-yourself events at the local rec center, etc., up to having booking Bob Dylan in college as well too, and that really gave me some hands-on experience that I apply still to this day, where we're doing the booking, the security, the promotion, the marketing, and all that, and just getting things done. Eventually, I found my way into marketing, worked for first in footwear for the UGG boot brand, and I was fortunate to be there when those boots were a very niche product, and then they blew up overnight thanks to celebrity praise and other endorsements out there. And this is the beginning of my career, and I got to be around some powerful business people who really understood how to grow a brand out of that kind of consumer demand level. Um, Eventually, I found my way into CPG, particularly in the natural side of things, at Numi Tea, and other CPG brands. And through that experience, I got to really build out my network and work with other entrepreneurs in the CPG space through groups in the industry like OSC2, a Northern California centered but now national collective of natural products brands, and learning from each other, collaborating together, and all that, and just kind of building that up. And that turned into other opportunities where I would start consulting for brands. And some of my consulting gigs just came from me helping out people, just having helpful conversations with entrepreneurs about what I thought they should do to get going because I had been there before. I was not necessarily the entrepreneur putting my all into it, but I was certainly one of the generals, one of the soldiers on the ground with these companies that were at early stage where you know there's not a specialized sub-marketing department for it, so you go and figure it out. And I figured out many of times over the years and really built up, kind of a portfolio and a toolkit to essentially help brands get, find their footing initially from a marketing perspective, and then um, reach out to growth and kind of pull those right levers along the time. So, um, while I was consulting, one of my favorite clients, Octonuts, was actually looking for someone to take over the business. They were the brand is owned by a manufacturer, a nut manufacturer that has three generations of nut processing in it. They have five facilities in California where they're producing nuts from private label, ingredients, etc., and a variety of nut products from protein powders and sliced nuts and snacking nuts, etc. But the founder Ulash Turkan, he was the first to admit, like, look, his knowledge is limited on retail and growing the brands, and I just need someone who's kind of been there before. And we had an amazing working relationship, and he brought me in full time, and so now I've been kind of serving as an intrapreneur within Pearl Crop, our parent company, to launch the Octonuts brand, and we've had a whole lot of fun getting our products out there. We have a big variety from nut butters, protein powders, snacking nuts, etc. And it's been a lot of fun to be able to, build a team, build a process, kind of lead this division and help bring change within this company to think a little bit differently, more so like a CPG company and a branded company as well.
No, that's a great background, and it's always interesting how people end up, landing where they are.
Yeah.
So we want to go through these various topics before we talk about your idea of Tom Brady's UGG football cleats. That one didn't work out very well. It was very distracting, his fuzzy cleats, but no wonder they won all those Super Bowls. So
He was comfortable. Yeah.
yes, very comfortable. So Greg, one of the things that the audience always finds interesting is what gap did you guys see in the market? Because there are, there's some other brands sort of similar to yours. Now, having tasted yours, I'm not sure that they're as good as yours. But what did you guys see that led you to believe there's an opportunity, and how did you go about, validating that? Did you do a bunch of research, or was it kind of a we're going to jump and figure it out as we go?
Yeah, sure. No, and that's the most important thing with starting, a new brand and business is like, where do you fit in with the marketplace? Because certainly there are a lot of great product and great brands that are in the snacking nut space, that are in the nut butter space as well too. The first that we really saw was the opportunity with quality. Look, having three generations of nut processing behind us, we'll actually able to look at the market out there and be like, well, gosh, they're selling this, level of product out there in the market. Well, we could produce, being the manufacturer and being vertically integrated with our farming relationships, et cetera, offer a higher quality nut product out there that maybe the average consumer would not know it by name, but certainly by experience. I mean, you look back to the 90s and nobody imagined that uh, consumers would be spending $4 or $5 on a cup of coffee from a company called Starbucks. And that changed everything. And so we really saw an opportunity to be able to provide a higher quality product at really what I call an entry level premium product. We're not the most expensive on there. We're very competitive price, but we're not also the value product either. But so we provide a high quality value. The other is that we really saw an opportunity for really pushing, nuts, which are a plant-based product, are nutrient dense, high in protein, high in fiber, other minerals out there, um, to be able to really market towards the wellness, the modern health and wellness consumers' sensibilities. So plant-based, clean labels, nutrient density, etc. And then finally, the other part of the consumers, take is, fun flavors. We're becoming more and more of a, you know, integrated society, where folks can get Vietnamese pho in like the most distant suburb throughout the United States, for example. And why can't we take some of these, flavor trends that, are maybe overlooked in the nut category and offer a Korean barbecue seasoned almond or an herbs Provence seasoned almond as well too. So really appealing to the consumer sensibility because that's what consumers want is, healthy food, good value that tastes great. And we just saw that opportunity there to really leverage the brand of those sensibilities. Plus introduce a brand that's visually cleaner, visually, looks new and fresh as well too, from the shelf.
So, Greg, did you guys do any quote unquote traditional research? I mean, you just buzzed through a bunch of not only very on trend, but very important product benefits and attributes. But did you guys do anything to kind of, mathematically validate, or was it like, look, 3 generations of nut processing, we know what we're doing, let's go?
Yeah. We did do some degree of research, but it was not necessarily to, the formal scientific research that maybe a larger CPG brand would take. From the intro and my background, clearly I'm not one of those CPG marketers that went through the Ivy League school and then to the big company and the and all that within this space. I kind of, helped I pioneered my path, I guess, based on a lot of opportunity that came my way. And research for us really was a nice blend of art meets science. I remember I had a mentor who said to me once, when we were doing some formal consumer research at the time, he's like, we used to call this just talking to people and getting out there. And so we
Right.
it was a little bit of that. It was getting feedback from, our broker partners, like Tracy, getting feedback from the buyers as well too, putting the product up online and doing some degree of digital marketing to get the word out there to see what the reaction was. Were consumers resonating with the idea of the flavors? Were consumers spending their hard-earned money on it altogether?
Right.
And putting it even in front of, our own personal network, our friends and family who are outside of this bubble of an industry that we're in and see what they do. I think it could be very easy for any industry, and I think particularly at times CPG, that we can be caught up in the trends of our own mindset. And well, the truth is every consumer, eats and grocery shops to some degree. And so get feedback from the folks who don't put even like a sliver of the thought into into the products, into the marketing, all that, and see what they say about the product. Would they spend their money on it? Would they like it? So it's just that kind of always being like radically empathetic is kind of an approach and not let, your idea and your ego get in the way of the truth shining that way. So it was a big mix of all those things, I'm describing from seeing what folks are doing online. Are we converting? Are they purchasing? Are they engaging with the brand? Getting feedback from trade partners and even just your own, friends and family, and try to try to be honest with the feedback. Because a lot of times I have seen many a times in my career, and I can think of a few products I'll save just for uh the sake of not drumming up old skeletons or anything. But I remember many a times that I've launched products and out the gate the like feedback we were getting was reflective of what happened in market, and it's a whole lot more expensive to go to market,
Mhm.
invest in inventory, invest in all the everything I do for launch, from the promotional fees and the slotting and all that, to then, have it play out in market, and you could have known in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Sounds like you guys did a little bit of quote unquote traditional research. And then, as a former colleague of mine used to say, you applied a big dose of kitchen table logic, which is usually more telling anyway. Tracy?
Yeah, and I think what Greg is also saying, and that I've seen, is the philosophy of test and learn. So I think you guys have done that with some of your, new and innovative flavors, and tried them online first to see what the consumer response would be. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The one that's absolutely true. And the one thing that was a big hurdle for us to kind of get through on the test and learn was that as a new brand, we didn't have that online audience. And so in the initial months, it was a bit about introducing the brand, getting an audience, building it up. And over time, we actually really found that Amazon was a great way to do it. Certainly marketers don't love Amazon in the sense that you don't own the relationship directly with the consumer and all that. But Amazon is something like 8 or 9 times the size of its next competitor online. I mean,
Yeah.
it comes down to simply fishing where the fish are. And
Right.
if you build up a big enough audience on Amazon, you could test to see if consumers are spending their hard-earned dollars, clicking and ordering that way. So that was definitely of an approach to us, and we've made some decisions to double down on certain products in our portfolio, particularly our cashew butters, as well as our snacking nuts. And then really some other ones have been, we really believe they're innovative, they're cool, but maybe it's not the right time, or we're kind of throttling back because the big focus is on where we're at now is growing that brand and initial foundation for the Octonuts brand in the marketplace.
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk about differentiation a little bit, Greg. So as you know, in any competitive category, differentiation is king. So talk to us a little bit about, the product differentiation for Octonuts, and then also a little bit about, your philosophy about how necessary differentiation is, especially in the CPG world.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, differentiation is everything, but it can mean a lot of different things. I mean, certainly product attributes is, a part of differentiation. Price point is a part of differentiation. Product size as well. And then, when it comes to winning that space on the shelf with a buyer, I found that, really proving that you can proving with data that you've earned in the marketplace will help
Mhm.
with differentiation and prove to the buyer that there's a reason for him and her to put you on the shelf altogether. And so, first, it starts the product innovation and like what do we want to put out there? Where do we see open space that fits within Octonut's core values and core brand promise? Cleaner labels, uh, entry level premium pricing that's competitive, simple ingredients, unique flavors, and what's not out there. Um, and then it's about winning that shelf space with a few of your key anchor accounts and those early adopters, and really focus your marketing energy there to get their shoppers to buy. You're doing a few things as a new brand in the space. You're
Sure.
introducing yourself to the shopper, you're introducing yourself to the buyers and the whole trade. And on the other side of that, that initial data store would really help with that differentiation. And when I say data store, I mean prove to them that you can perform at other retailers, that because they're certainly looking at what's next, and showing that there's proof and performance that consumers are paying money there, and not just online, but at brick and mortar where there's less opportunity for geo-targeting. That it's a lot of people passing by on their busy day, look at what's on the shelf. This looks good. This doesn't look good. I'm buying that. Um, and take that data story, um, and earn it and go and grow off of that distribution. That's really what we're doing right now ourselves.
Right. And I love that approach. Bruce?
So, Greg, when you guys started thinking about um, retail and positioning Octonuts, what were some of the tells you were looking for that you guys were ready to go to retail beyond, say, your very local market or your online only presence?
Yeah. Yeah, I think first was that we were seeing a lot of growth online, substantially. And what I love about online growth is it proves that, there's something there. And we were also not just seeing initial purchase, we were seeing quite a heavy repurchase rate altogether. So that proved to me that we're appealing to the consumers one way or another, and that they're buying us not just once but twice. So that says a lot. The other was um, teaming up with some of the initial retailers that we did. We got to learn a lot, quickly all together too, and so we um, utilize ones that have some very good shopper marketing programs that are more affordable than, say, the other major retailers. I mean, some of the major retailers, the minimum cost of entry is tens of thousands of dollars for a coupon program, an ad program, etc. And, marketing 101 is just like, you can't do this one and done thing. And so the timing, and I learned this really early in my career, like the timing for this is you got to do broad-based marketing frequently, and you got to just be ready for it with your distribution, with your base business, with your budget, of course. But to circle it back to your initial, question, how we know we were ready. It was that we focused on the handful of retailers we utilized this was those that have a shopper base that's appealing to our target demographic of just more of a discovering health and wellness consumer. We really invested and tried different marketing programs from their mobile coupons to various promotions as well. Went into the stores, talked to the staff about and got their feedback. And then, once we started seeing a formula that was the right toolkit mix, and we knew that our product was standing out on the shelf, that was where we grew the confidence in that data story that demonstrated success to grow as well.
So, Greg, let's take a pause here and dig in just a bit. So, as Tracy likes to remind the folks when we talk about line reviews and retailers, you have to be ready on their schedule, right? There's
Yes.
one line review a year. They don't care that Greg and Tracy are ready now. The line review was 2 months ago, so we'll see you in a year. What criteria did you guys use when figuring out your first one or two retailers to approach, right? Because if, to use a bad baseball analogy, at bats are precious. So
Yeah.
you need to know that when you dig in, you're ready for that swing. So what did you guys look? Did you look for, companies or people with a large set for your categories, people that weren't afraid of higher priced items, something very local to where your guys' headquarters is? What were you looking for?
I wish I could say we targeted, very specific ones, but that at bat analogy is exactly right. And even the brand largely was ready to go to market right in the thick of lockdown and COVID and all that. And, buyer reviews and all that were not consistent. Many were delayed as well too, and you do miss that opportunity. So we had to be nimble. I mean, there's a General MacArthur quote that, essentially, I won't say a word for a word, but it's essentially the essence is like, at the time of war, it's not the plan, but it's planning. So, because the battlefield changes and evolves quickly. And so we had to kind of take that approach. And I think that's honestly true, regardless of a global pandemic and lockdown and all that stuff too, because things are happening in this industry all the time. There's acquisitions and mergers. There's canceled acquisitions and mergers. There's
Yeah.
people going on extended leave, or there's that being buyers. There's review meetings that are canceled, or should I say review calendars that are canceled and changed for no other reason than just internal situations. And so it was about, coming up with that target list and finding those retailers. For us, it was a lot of the ones that the natural chains out there that we know are early adopters, that, have a shopper base that's looking for new products, that are engaged, and go to those stores to find healthy, new, fresh products as well as delicious and interesting ones too. Um, and really try to get in front of them at the right time and be ready to take that swing when it's your time to go in as well too.
So for a brand like yours, um, for the people out there that might have been in a similar situation to Octonuts a couple of years ago, what are some of the things you've learned about the challenges of working with brick and mortar retailers?
Yeah. I think a lot of the challenges, they're so varied, and they're so varied based on the actual retailer, the region, and all that. I mean, I think some of the challenge and it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, each retailer has their own expectations, first off, and that can vary a lot with how much it costs to do business with them, whether it's their baseline for slotting, to get the placement in the first place, what their level of price promotion is, how deep they want to go, how often they expect you to go. And these programs are really KPIs of the buyers, first and foremost. It's not just as simply about bringing in, fresh new product, cool new products, and really delighting the customer. They have their KPIs, and goals out there as a department and as buyers and all that. And I think really understanding what those are, what's their motivations, will help you get that chance to partner with them. It should also give you, as a new brand, as an entrepreneur, as someone going out there and growing this, it should kind of help also, you determine which ones are the priorities, altogether too. Who can you afford to be in? Who has the right shopper base that really would be your demographic altogether to get that brand going? And finally, which can you afford? Too.
Yeah.
It's very tempting, and you've heard about so many brands out there in our space, right? That were bold enough to say no to, some of the major retailers. They knew they were not ready for it yet. Their brand wasn't big enough yet. They couldn't support financially, maybe the independent or the inventory, excuse me, to launch with those retailers at that time, but they knew there would be another chance. So you don't close the door, never do altogether, but it's about, having the grace, the confidence, and, keep the ego in check that, there's timing for some of these as well. Some of these accounts, and there's better timing for other ones altogether.
That the truth. Isn't that the
Yeah.
truth?
So
Yeah.
true. So true. So, Greg, let's talk about the role. So, you've got a couple different things to manage here. You've got your D2C website, you've got Amazon, now you've got retailers. Like, how do you manage all that and and get it to work all together and make an orchestra out of it? So, talk to our audience a little bit about how all that works, because there's, like you said, different requirements and by all of these different, you know, folks and entities. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the orchestra analogy is spot on. And look, I think at first, right now, it takes having the team all together, and a great team you can rely on to get everything done. Part of that team is the extended team, and that's, having, brokers and confidants and other folks and other brands as well too, to really understand, what's the lay of the land, what's the gameplay. I've been speaking pretty broadly about some of this, but we could spend multiple episodes going through each retailer, right, and talk about, XYZ
Sure.
retailers' expectations and all that. So I think knowing what um really knowing what was expected, and how to win, I think, is also, and that's a better way to phrase it. I've been saying what's expected, but it's how to win in this retailer. And winning is having the consumer buy your product off the shelf and buy it again, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. You've put a lot of time into making a great product. building a great brand, and you want it to shine, and the retailer wants it too, as
Sure.
well. Another key factor is, um, between online and brick and mortar is, this whole world. Um, it's all about being, this whole world, like it's interesting because like through COVID, there's this big growth of online sales
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
The tech companies expanded. There was this, crazy growth in e-commerce and digital advertising, et cetera. But still, a grocery at the end of the day, around 90% of groceries are still purchased at brick and mortar. And certainly online's growing. Certainly online is an important factor, but where is it in the consumer's journey for your brand? I think is key and important. So, um, people shop, and particularly for consumables and foods, based on convenience. So, if I'm working in downtown San Francisco, and I've got to commute home, and I know that we're missing, um, salad dressing, some snacking nuts or whatever, you're going to go to the local market on your way home. If you happen to live in a suburb and you're making frequent stops to Trader Joe's, to Safeway, to Costco, whichever it may be, then that's where you're going to buy the products. And whether they happen to have Octonuts, nut butters there, or some other brand, I'm going to buy it because I'm that's convenient for me. Um, if I'm uh if I'm traveling and need some groceries sitting on my doorstep when I get home, I'm going to order them, whether it's on Amazon, on Instacart, or whatever else it is. So it's really about, the consumers are busy. They're and they're purchasing on, an impulse, should I say, or at the moment altogether. And so you want your brand in that distribution. You want to stand out so it comes the value that you've built and the price point, all that all come across. And I think finally, to end the point about all this, is first it's understanding and practicing radical empathy with the consumer. Where are they, and what they need, and how are they shopping, and then control your price through all these channels, so that your price point is similar at every single
Right.
part
Key.
altogether, and control that as best you can, because you don't want your retailers competing with each other on your products. You're just then going to be fielding those concerns and those
Right.
bad feelings and all that. And this business is all about partnerships too. And so, it's one is managing the price is the price altogether, and keeping with that. And then where there are opportunities for maybe larger accounts, think creatively and outside the box. Maybe it's a different product and exclusive for them that can only be available at said retail when that time is right for your brand. Maybe it's a specific size that would make sense, and you'd have to, of course, look at your minimum order quantities, all that. But there's some ways to kind of ensure that you're protecting the price, so you're delivering a good value wherever that consumer find your products, of course.
Yeah, Greg, that's a great point. Tracy and I talk all the time to people about you have to control your price because sometimes people get all excited that they might be able to get into XYZ retailer or this online merchant. And the next thing you know, you look up and you have 6 different one-off deals, and people are like, what's going on with your pricing?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so let's take a little side journey here for a moment before we get back to more of the traditional type topics. So what's one thing in your business here with Octonuts, Greg, that you'd love a do-over if you could go back in time, aside from not come on this podcast? What else would you take a do-over on?
Now, I would have subscribed to this podcast earlier. That's for sure. So,
There you go.
Excellent.
Love it. Good answer. Good answer.
yeah, the do-over thing is tricky because you grow from all your mistakes and all the shortcomings and all that. But certainly, I would say I would sum it up with, like, I would have made some decisions that I knew were coming up much quicker altogether, and that did come to the point about products. And we launched the brand with quite a variety of products altogether, and some of them we really believe in, but just don't seem well positioned for that category today, altogether. And we have since made the decision to throttle back some of those products. One was like a protein pancake mix that we came out with. It was,
Interesting.
very almond centric. Had, didn't have much
Good.
added sugar with it. Tasted great. Um, it was twice the it was twice the cost of what was on the shelf versus the other competitors in the protein pancake mix section. And at the end of the day, practicing radical empathy with the consumer, they're going in and they're not necessarily they're looking for protein pancake mixes, and they're looking at grams per protein and price point and how many ounces or servings or whatever. They're not at the point yet where they're saying, well, I want almond protein over brown rice protein or pea protein or some of these attributes yet. Us in the industry, we think like that because we know those
Right.
details. But the average consumer is not there, and that's where kind of the art meets science research comes in. And I think that was something we probably was going in with. We were very proud of the product because it is fantastic, and we very well may bring it back one day, whether it's a different format or price point, all that. But that was one where it's like, gosh, we probably should have just made that decision earlier. And it's more so because as an emerging brand, your time is almost as precious as your, financial, what's in your bank account. And it's just that could have been time we spent better on growing the cashew butters or growing, or focus on, getting the product out, the products that we're focused on, the seasoned nuts and the cashew butters and almond butters out more quickly, or, found other partners and avenues with as well, too.
Yeah, having too many SKUs not only is distracting, but it also really complicates your production plan and eats up a
Yeah.
lot of cash in inventory. So
Yeah.
that's a good one for folks to take into consideration. Keep that initial SKU count thin and make them work, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
project off of strength. Tracy,
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm having a little coughing fit here. So, Greg, let's talk about your favorite topic, marketing. So, talk to our audience a little bit about the marketing tools you use to build awareness and trial of the Octonuts brand, and then why did you choose those, and then how do you evaluate them to make sure that they're working?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I love marketing. At this juncture, for an emerging brand, the toolkit it's funny because it's not the things that we all think about in marketing because we all marketed to them. We would love to learn about the big TikTok ads and content and the big Super Bowl ads and the big national campaigns, right? But at this juncture, um, it's a little bit more knuckly and it's a little more brass tacks as well. And first and foremost, the most important marketing vehicle for any CPG brand is the packaging.
Yeah.
Straight up, how does that look on shelf? Um, because that is going to be the largest point of consumer interaction you're going to have altogether. And it also needs to speak to the distracted shopper as he or she walks by the shelf. And so they need to be able to
Right.
quickly, what is your product about? And there's a lot of opportunity with just radical simplicity with this messaging altogether. Because, first off, there's a lot of brands out there that have pretty busy packaging, and I mean visually busy, like
Right.
different fonts and colors and photos and illustrations and whatever that might be. And that's just their packaging. But then, you put that in with all the competitive sets packaging, and it's a pretty noisy shelf
Right.
altogether. And so we really found um, we really benefit. And Lillian, our marketing manager, and I, it's most of our communication project with our designers. It's about first throwing things out there and then simplifying it. And so that's really where Octonuts has been shining altogether, is with our packaging. And so I think, and it's so easy for for a sales mind or an operations mind, or logistics mind to be, let's get the product out. We need the packaging, send the vendor the vendor the artwork. Let's get it printed. Let's pack things and ship them out. Well, you got to make sure the packaging is standing out, and I'd say always revisit it. That the packaging is never set and forget it piece.
Right.
So
Good
show it to your
advice.
friends who are outside the industry. take it into stores and take off products off the shelf and put it next to the products you want your products to be at. Take pictures of that. Is it standing out? Does it look appealing? Ask your friends and family or strangers, what they if they're get what they're getting out of it, because that's always something like that's I'm always amazed by, how what consumers and just everyday people how they respond to your marketing messaging. And so and because it's very rarely exactly as you hope it will be. Humans
Right.
are unpredictable creatures altogether. And
For
so
sure.
definitely play off that route. And then look to go out and promote. I mean, product is everything. It has to taste great altogether. And then sampling is critical for us. And any food product, if it doesn't taste good, you're not gonna get the second chance. That's for sure. And getting the first one's hard enough. And so sampling is key. And Tracy, very well, we've had some good success getting some sampling just through a sales channel
Yeah.
altogether. We
Yes.
have our products available on various national airlines right now as well too, where we've been fortunate enough to get a chance to have our sea salt and herbs Provence snacking nuts available in flight as well too on some major airlines out there in the marketplace. And that's thousands of consumers who are trying us. We are seeing increases in our online sales as well too. So I know that's all related in itself. So do look for those sampling opportunities, and certainly where you could make it a sales channel as well as a marketing channel. That's amazing avenue.
No, you
Um,
had
That's a win-win for sure.
yes.
exactly. You had a couple of great points in there, Greg. First off, the fact that your packaging is your 24/7 salesperson.
Yeah.
And, we run into people all the time with emerging brands that, it's like, well, this was the packaging that, we came up with in my kitchen. It's like, well, that was great. But, now you're in Harris Teeter and no one can read it because it's so fine that if I'm holding it and I've got like a minute to give you, it's awesome. But if I've got two screaming kids in a basket and I've only
Yeah.
got 10 minutes, I'm going to miss it. And then second, especially with a food or a product you can taste, touch, smell, feel, sampling is awesome. So I know that you said Octonuts is owned by, the producer there, but you've had experience in this. What we always try to get the perspective of our guests on raising money. It's hard to run a
Yeah.
business without money. It comes in pretty handy. So if you ever found yourself needing to raise money or what you've done in past lives, what would be a couple of tips, or what do you look for in a potential investor? What are the things where you go, she's got it going on, I'm interested, and that guy's a nut. I don't care how much money he has. No offense to nuts, but
They're better as food than humans, right? So,
exactly.
um, no, look, I've been fortunate enough to be in this role where I'm really serving as an intrapreneur and, building up a business unit, with a company and a founder who, trusts me and has, we have, for at least this initial round to grow the business off of, financing that's within the parent company. I've also, though, as I mentioned, worked with various different entrepreneurs and startups and been involved in fundraising rounds too. Um, and I do salute any entrepreneur who goes through this. Like I said, I've been more the soldier or the general along with them in my career, and it takes a lot. At the same time, the entrepreneurs are passionate, and amazing and creative, and the world, is largely improved by their efforts too. But really, you want a partner. This whole industry, first off, is about partnerships. To
Yeah.
use, we all are limited in our time, our knowledge, et cetera. And, while, you want money and you need the money in this industry, especially you got to buy inventory, you got to pay for the all the fees and all the startup costs and the marketing and all that. But you want a partner who can either provide guidance and has been within either the CPG space or the consumer goods space altogether, consumer products, and can perhaps introduce you to some key folks, buyers at major retailers like Target, other portfolio companies that they're involved in that you could learn from the lessons that they've done as well. Supplier relationships, co-manufacturing relationships. You really want this added value, and you want somebody who's going to be an engaged partner as well. And I would really encourage, and I've saw in my previous life founders who are really good at managing their board and their investors as well too, where they would just specifically ask for specific things from them, and then make it radically easy for them to execute. So type up the email for them that would be an introduction to somebody you're hoping for, and send it to them so they can copy and paste it and send it along, and all that. Also, I think anyone could give you that advice. So who knows the industry, who knows the space, and also is realistic about what the growth is going to be. We all, hear about, fast unicorn, based growth, but it takes time. And even, in my days at UGG Boots, different industry, still driven by consumer demand. That brand was around for 20 some odd years, as just kind of a coastal brand that swimmers and surfers in the US would wear these boots from. And it wasn't until, the early 2000s, driven by celebrities and eventually Tom Brady and others, that the brand, skyrocketed, altogether. And so, I think, and that was a unique situation. I mean, it was an amazing early career experience for me to be a part of this and learn how to grow a brand from this rapid growth. But most of the brands I've been part of, it's been not this hockey stick growth, but this comfortable growth over time, where you're building the business, you're building the foundation, you're building the partners, the retails, the channels, the consumer. And I think that's more or less how I've seen brands become what they've become over time, through incremental smart strategic growth. And I think you want investors who understand that, because otherwise you'll be off base on your expectation, and that is a major problem for someone whose money you're taking, of course.
Yeah. Good counsel. As we've heard, in the end, they're looking for a return on that money.
They sure are. Yeah,
Tracy?
exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to call a little audible here because I know we're going to be running out of time here shortly, and I want to get to my favorite question. So I'm going to jump to my favorite question to you, Greg, as a musician. So talk to us a little bit about who your favorite band is and why.
Sure. I love this question. I love this topic. Yeah, as I mentioned, I used to be a concert promoter. I'm playing music again, as well too, actually, with a bunch of guys. It's kind of my midlife crisis, has gone to form of playing in a punk rock band once again. So,
I love that. You're the first rock star on our podcast, right, Bruce?
That's true.
All right, I'll take the label. You guys are too kind.
If you can get Bob Dylan to come on our podcast, I think Bruce would really like that. He won't talk about CPG, but we could have an interesting conversation.
Bob's
might give you a good audience. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, look, I would love to say, like, my favorite band is like some obscure obscure artists out there, and I love music. I listen to quite a variety of different types, but I think one that would be fitting and is truly one of my favorite musicians, and I think fitting for this discussion, is Dave Grohl, of the Foo Fighters, the band the Foo Fighters. First off, I'm a drummer. He inspired me at that right age to play drums, and as a fan of the Foo Fighters, these songs are very much crafted around the drums. So there's that. And, I think only a handful of folks would know that. I would say, though, from a career perspective, he essentially first was in a very, a regional punk rock band in the underground scene, grew his network and, all that, touring the country in the back of a van. You ever read his book, it's kind of funny to hear some stories about him inadvertently being asked to play drums for Iggy Pop, while they're on tour somewhere in the Midwest, I believe. So he did all that grit. Then he got involved in Nirvana, which was another underground band at the time, and they became who they are now. But that was through a lot. That was the hockey stick growth relative, from a comparison perspective that they had. Obviously, they back in the 90s, became bigger than Michael Jackson, et cetera, but they did not expect that altogether. And then, of course, after Kurt Cobain's tragic, passing, um, he went out and, you know, recorded his first album, on his own based on some side material he was doing, and then, built, the Foo Fighters over time. And they've been one of those bands that you all know them, but they don't have they have their hits, but they're not like the massive top 40 hits. And they've just really grown to kind of be one of the like, handful of rock bands with a lasting career, that has come with a lot of incremental growth over time. And he's very much kept principles on, keeping, really highlighting music as a craft. He did that HBO series and really focused on the music industry in various different cities from New Orleans to Seattle and et cetera. And really kept a good principle, I think, on, keeping the music about what, he wants to create, what his audience wants, and, not, not veering from that initial vision. I really respected that, because certainly he could have, done some corny, collaboration. I'm sure back in the day he had a big enough name, and I felt that, he, you know, did the grid, and I think there's a lot of, parallels. And I do look at brand growth from a musician perspective. There's, you're the first of the local act, then you become the underground hit regionally, then you go the independent route, and then eventually hopefully go on to the main stage at the Coachellas or whatever else is out there. And I felt he kind of and I think entrepreneurs and brands can go that route. You just got to kind of find your initial underground footing, your initial consumer base, your initial retail chains out there, grow off of that, get that foundation, and then grow your brand to the Coachellas of the retail world, and then some.
I love that. Bruce is loving that. He's like our first guest that made an analogy between the music industry, growing as an artist, linking it to the growth of a CPG brand. I love that.
I do too. And you talk about startup brands. Well, I reached out to one guy who's got a regional band, and he's like, why would I come on your show? I was like, what is a bigger startup than a band?
Yeah.
Where everything is stacked against you. So I'm still hoping to get him. Otherwise, I'll settle for Neil Young or Keith Richards. They keep calling me, but
Yeah. Or Bob Dylan at that point.
I don't think they're successful enough yet. Anyway,
I don't understand why you're not going after Bob Dylan, Bruce. I don't get it.
Well, now with his movie out, he's even more of a recluse. He's just counting his money. But there's not many more people talented than him. Hey, Greg. So thank you so much for your time today. How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to reach out and maybe take your temperature on a few more of your topics?
Yeah, absolutely. Please reach out to me through LinkedIn, of course, or you could just email me at Greg at octonuts.com.
All right, Tracy, the big finish. Absolutely. Well, Greg, thank you again for being our guest today. It's very insightful. Love the music CPG brand analogy. And we just thank you so much. So audience, thanks for joining us today. Happy New Year. This is our first episode of 2025. And we just encourage you to follow us on our YouTube page, on Apple, Spotify, and also on our LinkedIn page, all at Road2 Retail. Thanks again. Be safe out there and Happy New Year.
Good luck, everybody.